Hey all, Brie from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, JoAnn Crone, and I'm joined here by my wonderful co-host, Brie Tucker.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
And we are recording this episode on the fly. Usually we record about 2 weeks ahead of time.
Right.
And today is Wednesday, October 7th.
Yeah,
I had to look at the date on that one. And this will be airing on Thursday, October 8th. And you know what, guys? We had a completely different episode ready to air for you today when you're hearing this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to back this up like even further. So yesterday I was driving in and I was like, every morning we have a podcast. I like to listen to it because I have that fear that I messed up something and I'm going to hit play and there is not going to be anything on the podcast. I'm going to be like, oh no, Brie forgot to hit save. So I'm driving in yesterday, I'm listening to the podcast, and I hear our opening. And we had recorded that opening, I want to say like Wednesday or Thursday of last week.
Yeah.
And the recording in the morning, that morning made sense. Like my daughter was at her dad's house. She wasn't feeling well. She had called me, and we're all like, oh my gosh, she might have COVID because she'd been out and about in places at school. And I felt like the responsible thing was to get a COVID test done.
Yes.
And so that's where our intro came from.
Yeah.
But in light of everything that happened,
oh my gosh. So
last weekend, I was like, when I heard that intro yesterday, I'm like, oh, Lordy Lord.
Of the president going in for treatment for COVID and then coming out and saying that he beat COVID and it was nothing, it was like a flu, which is completely against science. Yeah, we both kind of freaked out at the intro and we're like, oh my gosh, what if people think like we're not taking this seriously?
Right, it sounds like we're being so flippant about the whole situation. So then we had to look at the podcast, podcast that we had scheduled for tomorrow, which was called Politics on the Playground.
And the inspiration for that episode came from a Facebook post where a mom just told everybody in the group that they needed to set a good example and stop raising crappy kids.
Well, because her child was told he couldn't play because he wasn't part of the right political group.
Yes, which there's all sorts of issues with that.
Right.
But we recorded that. We recorded some advice about how to handle it in a personal way instead of like making it public. But even now listening to that, like there's such a bigger issue at play here that just seemed totally wrong for the state of the world today. So that's why we are coming to you with this episode. No music, no intro music you'll hear. It's just me and Brie.
Because I have to acknowledge this, right? Who knows how outdated this is going to be by tomorrow?
Who knows? I mean, okay, so let's take stock of this really. And this episode, it's not going to be a rant on everything that's going on because I feel like you get enough of that in the media as it is. It is going to be some steps that you could take to actually feel like you are making a positive impact on the world during this time. I know that I have seen all these articles and podcasts telling you how serious things are, and things are serious, but it also doesn't really give way to many things you can do or anything like positive that you can take action on from the scenario. And that's what we want to do with this podcast.
Right. There's so many things right now that are dividing us.
Yeah.
So let's not necessarily focus on the things that are dividing us, but focus on what we can do for our own mental health and our own well-being.
Yeah.
Especially to those moms out there that are like, okay, we're already under enough stress as moms. Let's add on the whole social
political aspect that's happening too, right?
But we need to acknowledge the situation too, because I mean, just, as of today, Wednesday, and you're hearing this on Thursday, but in the past few days, like a new thing has come out every single day that we're like, oh my gosh, the world is going berserk. Like we had the president saying he beat COVID and he's still in treatment for COVID. We had him pulling stimulus funding until after he got elected. That was the tweet that was put out. It may be outdated by the time that this airs. And then we had the New York Times coming out this morning. Did you see this?
I don't know.
Oh, I know you're scared about this one.
See, I'm already anxious. I'm already pulling away from her, nervous about what she's going to say. And by the way, I'd like to point out that you forgot about the stock market drop too.
Oh, the stock market drop too. Yes. Jeff Sessions, some reports came out about that, saying that they needed to take away children at the border, no matter how young they are, and that was the reasoning behind the policy a few years ago about the child separation, which is just deplorable. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But that's why, I mean, right now you're probably overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that's happening, and the amount of bad news coming your way. You might be feeling a bit mad that this is happening. You might be feeling helpless, especially if you're getting into conflicts with family members or close friends and seeing the amount of disinformation out there. And people refusing to acknowledge reputable news sources. And reputable, I determine as news sources that have journalists doing full-time reporting and fact-checking and all of the things like the New York Times. And you might even be separated from family and friends. I know, like for me, I feel like there's a lot more drama that's entered my life in the past few weeks, and it's partly COVID related. It could be the political situation happening right now and the fighting. But all of this, it might be, helpless. You might feel helpless, and that's okay. We are all feeling a bit helpless right now. And I hear helpless and I immediately want to start singing the Hamilton song. Do you know that one?
Helpless.
Oh, look at those eyes.
Yeah. Well, look at you and then suddenly I'm helpless. Yeah, sorry guys.
Yes,
that's the second time you've had to listen to me singing. I apologize. I sincerely apologize.
There would be no apologize for music and frivolity on this show.
Actually, wait. I think I sang on the Politics on the Playground one. So who knows when you'll hear that one?
Who knows?
But so there is a lot going on. I think families are divided. A lot of families are divided.
Mm-hmm.
People that I know that I've been friends with for years, we're on very different ends of the political spectrum, and it's upsetting to me that we can't find a middle ground. And and I hate feeling like that is something that is there. And I know for a fact that neither of us want to be on this end. And in my case, luckily, nobody that I have interactions with is calling names, being rude, hanging up on anyone. Like we all still are establishing and keeping those relationships, but it still is a very high dose of cortisone. I am getting
cortisol.
Cortisol. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, cortisol.
They're very similar.
That's something different from my mosquito bites. But cortisol every day, every time that phone dings and it's another news headline or something else pops up on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I don't even I get nervous even watching the news at night. There's just so much. So what can we do to help our mental well-being?
So we've broken it up into two things we can do. One is things you can do politically, because I think we've gone past the point where being involved in politics is like an optional thing. We can now see how the people that we have in office affect the rest of our lives, especially throughout this whole pandemic. You could see the policies and the decisions being made by higher up leaders that are really affecting you on a personal level. So we have some suggestions for what you could do politically, and we also have some suggestions for what you can do personally. All that drama coming into your life right now, and how we can take the long view with what we can start with our kids right now too. So let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's start with politically, because I have not been involved in politics like my whole life. I've never volunteered for a campaign. I have never, I mean, the most I've done is I've voted. I have voted every single election. That is about the civic duties that I have, fulfilled. What about you?
Mine's the same. Mine is the same. I have always traditionally never felt pulled in one particular political direction or another. I never felt overly passionate about anything one way or another, not Republican, not Democrat. And I've also never had a candidate that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my person right there.
Yeah.
That I ever had that inspiration, nor did I have the feeling of civic duty to volunteer to work at the polls or anything like that.
And I think that's a lot of us. And that could be construed as like a little bit of apathy because we didn't really see how the political situation could affect us or why we needed to be involved.
Right. And when you hear from some people over and over that your vote doesn't necessarily count because you're not enough of this group.
Yeah.
It does kind of lead you towards that of like, what's the matter then?
Yes. And now we're seeing that, all of those things about your vote not counting. It actually does. It counts more on a local level than it does on a national level. But if you're in a state that, especially during this presidential election, that is right on the borderline, like your vote counts a lot. We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Brie, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Hey all, Brie here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
And I will say, like, that was a big thing that got me really charged about a lot of stuff going on. Like, once the conversation started a while back about the way that I vote, ever since I would tote my kids into the polling booths, and then I found out that, oh my gosh, you could vote by mail here in Arizona. Where was this when I had screaming, crying kids and I'm dragging them around places? So then I've always been a vote by mail person.
Yeah.
And then when things started to go the direction that they did, where there was insinuated that ability to vote was going to be taken away because it was being seen as less than honest. I took personal offense to that.
Yes.
That's how I vote.
Yeah.
No, that is not. And I have to say, like, here in Arizona, I think we have a pretty good system for that. So
we do.
So that is the first thing that made me start to feel a little bit more of like waking up, opening my eyes a little bit more about how I could do more.
Yeah. Once our ability to vote was threatened to be taken away, that's when I'm like, okay, this just got real. So
Right.
something that you could do, and I just did this morning, I signed up to be a poll worker.
Woohoo!
Our friends, Shayna and Jen, who are very involved politically, they are doing this. And I was like, okay, November 3rd is going to come around. I don't want to just be sitting around like refreshing CNN to see the latest polls. I think that's a recipe for craziness in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed up.
Okay.
And it's it's easy to do. All I did was I searched Google for poll worker Arizona, and you can do that for the state you're in too. And it pulled up the Secretary of State's website where you could sign up to be a poll worker. And you're signing up to get more information. So they will reach out if they need me, which I hope they do because I think it'd be fun.
Yeah. No, I always loved seeing working at when you would go there with the poll workers. They were always, hi, how you doing? I see you. And you know what? Who predominantly worked the polls?
It was senior citizens.
Who are the people that really shouldn't be out and about.
They shouldn't be out
right
and
now.
about because they have the highest risk to getting affected by COVID.
So we should do our part by stepping up so that they don't have to expose themselves unnecessarily.
Yes. And masking and sanitizing. And I am sure that they're going to have extra security measures at the polls this year. I don't know what they are, but I would hope that is in place.
So if you're available and that sounds good to you, that's an option. Signing up to be a poll worker. That'd be a great distraction for the day, like you said, besides checking the news every 5 seconds. You're going to be busy.
Yeah.
And not let yourself get caught up in the drama of this and then that because, hello, the world is changing so quickly all the time right now.
There was also a sign up for ballot tabulation.
Ooh.
Like counting ballots and stuff. And I was like, that would be so interesting as well.
Yeah.
So those are, you could sign up that. But, you might be in a situation where you can't find daycare for the day because, everything is closed and you might have little kids. The only way I can do it is that is going to be the week that my husband works from home, coincidentally. And that's the only reason I could have signed up. If it was one of the weeks where he'd have to work in the office, that would have been a no-go for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that works, that's a good option there.
So if you cannot get out of your house and you want to feel like you are doing something, may I suggest ResistBot. And this is something so cool that I didn't even know existed until a month ago. You can find it on Facebook. Look for ResistBot on Facebook. And it is basically AI that writes letters to your senators and representatives for you. So all of those action-taking items where you're like, oh, I wish they would do it this way, but just sitting down to write the letter and figuring out what I'm going to say and making sure I sound intelligent and don't, I get into my own head all the time when I'm supposed to be taking action like that. And all of the decisions and the choices that I have to make actually stop me from taking the action. And ResistBot, it is so easy. All you do is you go and it says send a message to ResistBot. You click send a message and it just prompts you the entire way. And then it sends off letters to your senators and representatives for you on a variety of issues.
Right. You can pick out whatever you want to do. I've actually been using that since this summer and you can find it. They do have an account on Twitter and on Instagram as well. So you can find them in a lot of different places, but it's phenomenal. It does make it very easy for you to put in and what I like about it too is that it doesn't necessarily autofill.
Yeah.
It asks you what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So for individuals that have sometimes insinuated that, people are just blindly signing up for things and blindly signing petitions, ResistBot makes it, like you just said, easy to identify who your representatives are.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll ask you questions like, what do you want to talk about? What is your issue? And then it'll be like, okay, you need to speak to your state senator. No, you need to speak to your U.S. senator. Mm-hmm. And it'll help you identify those things. And it just, again, it takes all of the hard work and the intimidating part of it that might have kept you from doing it before because you're like, I'm embarrassed to say I'm not exactly certain who my Arizona House of Representatives person is for my district at the moment, right?
Yeah.
It finds that all for you. So, and then every time I've used it, I always have heard back from the representatives on the issue.
I have too. I've gotten the email.
Right? And it makes me like, wow, they really are listening. What do you know?
So you just have to think that if more people used ResistBot and communicated what they wanted to their representatives, I mean, our representatives, they work for their constituents, but if they don't hear from their constituents, they can't take any course of action.
Exactly.
So our voice as a people needs to be louder than the voice of party politics in Washington. So and you could do that with ResistBot, which is totally free. I chose to support ResistBot with a monthly donation. I put in a monthly donation of just $25, and they deliver front page of newspapers to me now.
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah. And I get my own like username. So I can actually, if I want to share the petitions that I signed with friends, I can just tell them to go. And it's actually go. You just text go, no guilt mom, all one word, to 50409. And that is ResistBot. And then ResistBot texts you back. It's amazing. So go check that out. If you want to be more involved politically and you're not sure how, those are two ways. You can do the in-person thing or you can do ResistBot. So let's go into personal.
Okay.
Personal stuff. It's conflict. I hate conflict. I have had a constant headache probably for the past 2 or 3 weeks because so much conflict has just materialized in my life. And I'm not sure where. I was just asking my husband yesterday, who doesn't believe in like the karma stuff. And I'm like, why do I have so much conflict karma? And he just looks at me because he doesn't know what to say. Because he's like,
yeah, I can't follow you there.
Can't follow you there.
I can, though. I'll follow you
You'll
there.
follow me there.
I totally believe in karma and
Yeah.
science. Sorry.
And science. Yes, we all believe in science here at No Guilt Mom. But this drama has it's increased. And I just think it's being like cooped up with COVID and all of the restrictions, not having clear guidelines, disagreeing with people on guidelines. And then, I don't know, some of it, I think this whole political situation and this whole COVID situation has just made me realize how much I don't want to take other people's crap anymore and stand up for myself. And so I have been standing up for myself a lot more, and it has brought a lot more conflict into my life.
That's what I was going to say, which will bring in more conflict by default. But conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's healthy conflict that will move you forward through a problem and help you find solutions.
Yes. And the conflict resolution that we're seeing right now at a national level and in the political space isn't healthy.
No, it's causing a lot of stress for a lot of people. For the majority of the country, we're all dealing with a lot of stress on a regular basis.
And when we see that kind of conflict resolution and this fighting happening, it's really hard to know what we should be doing in our own personal lives and in our homes, and how we should be teaching our kids to deal with problems too.
My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, JoAnn. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org. This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Brie, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM.
And a case in point, gotta bring this up, the presidential debate.
Yes.
That was an issue of poor communication and lack of respect for the other person. And there was a whole other bunch of issues too.
Yeah.
But it came down to not listening.
Right. It did. It really did. And I felt bad because I made a parenting choice that day that I felt guilty about.
Yeah.
And I talked about it on the other podcast that has yet to be aired. But you know, my children are in junior high, and their dad and I have different political views, so I know they hear a lot from both sides. And I said, you know what, you guys are old enough that you should watch a presidential debate because I don't want to sway your thoughts one way or another based on what I'm saying or based on what, you know, you're hearing at your other parents' house. So watch the debate. You guys make up your own mind.
Oh,
wow.
well, yes.
Wow. I immediately regretted that decision. Like, my daughter got up and left about near the end because she was like, I just can't take it anymore. Can I go? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like rubbing my temples like, oh, good Lord. Yes, go. Just go. And at the end, my son just had these like wide eyes. He turned and looked at me and went, is that what they're always like? And I'm like, no, that was and that was my wording too. That was a bad example of bad communication. And he's like, yeah, like they weren't really answering questions and there was a lot of yelling and is that normal? And I'm like, no, that's not how we should talk, is it? And he's like, no.
But when you have one person in a situation who refuses to follow like communication guidelines and communication rules, I don't think there's any hope for that situation. I think that it's just, it was so bad and it was so embarrassing. And we talked a lot about with our membership community balance. We have some women who are in China and they're international. And we're like, what did you all think about that? And they're like, oh,
we just feel so sorry for you guys.
It was bad.
What did one of the news outlets had said? It was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire. And the only losers there, like you probably saw this over and over again, were the American people. Because we heard nothing about issues. All we saw was people yelling at each other. And unfortunately, that is kind of the behavior we are seeing more and more in our society too. It's this us versus them. It's us versus them in Congress and elections, where it's Republicans versus Democrats. It's us versus them in some of the rhetoric that's coming out about immigration. And it should not, like, just hearing the us versus them, it breaks my heart.
Right, because you're never going to make any moves forward if you constantly see yourself as being attacked, or if you see it as it's my job, or no, sorry, take that back, not my job. If you see it as I am right and I am 100% right and you are 100% wrong.
Yeah,
like there is no middle ground there. You have to acknowledge and listen to the other person, and just see if there is anything that there's commonality on. Is there any middle ground?
Yeah, we need to work together. And the first way that happens is through better communication. But how do we do that? So as parents, one of the things that we can do is we start with our kids. And the first thing that we teach kids in our Emotions 911 course for No Guilt Mom is the I statement. And you may have heard the I statement before. And what it is it's you acknowledging your own feelings based on an action that happened. So what it's not blaming someone for making you feel the same way. Like, I wouldn't go to Brie and I'd be like, I'm mad, Brie, because you made me feel mad. Like, that's not the I statement whatsoever.
But I used an I in there.
Yes.
Not properly, though.
No.
Not the right way.
Not the right way. I statement is all about taking responsibility for your own feelings and saying the exact action that caused those feelings in you, or that like made you think a certain way. It's explaining your inner monologue to someone else in a way that does not blame or does not shame.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. It's not saying that other people are you're being mean to me. This is being mean to me. No.
The economy's being mean to me. It keeps losing jobs.
Sorry, we really enjoyed the SNL cold open.
If you have not watched SNL yet this week and you need a laugh about those presidential debates, search for it.
The October 3rd, 2020 episode. But you know what? I mean, no matter, we need to laugh. We need to be able to laugh.
I think I've watched that cold open 3 times already because Alec Baldwin makes me laugh so much in that. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And we have to laugh at, we have to have something to laugh at.
You have to be able to laugh at yourselves and move forward with things. But anyways, going back to the I statement, I apologize. So, the I statement. So, I feel,
you could say, I feel hurt when you said, and you could say something that the person has exactly said. So for kids, I use this a lot with my son. I felt sad when you screamed at me. It was this objective thing that happened. Did he scream at me? Mm-hmm. Yep, there was screaming directed towards me. And I felt sad. That's a true emotion. So just using the I statement with your kids. You can do it in a variety of ways. You can do it with chores. Like, I feel frustrated when I have to remind you constantly to load the dishwasher.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel frustrated when you said you would pick up your clothes off the floor and 3 days later they're still there.
Yes. It's an objective situation.
Or I feel disrespected, whatever. But you have to also listen to what the person says back to you.
Yes,
you have to be open to what they're saying back.
I do want to say one thing with the I statement, because here's another way that it can go wrong, is if when you section, or when something happens section, some people make a judgment about the other person in that section.
Oh,
so it's like, I feel hurt when you purposefully ignore me.
Right.
And that's just putting a judgment. That's saying that you are in the person's head.
That is putting blame.
It is putting blame because you don't know that they're purposefully ignoring you. And that is a mistake that I see happens a lot with the I statement, because if I get I statements like that, and when I hear it, I'm like, wait a minute, like, that is not an I statement. You are totally blaming me for this entire scenario and assuming that my intentions are malicious when in fact they are not.
Right.
Yes. So just a little warning there with the I statement.
Yeah.
So this season, it's tough.
And it is. The next 30 days. Just, oh my goodness. I mean, we know it's less than 30 days until the election, but it's going to be a rough couple days after election. It's still going to be.
Yes, it is.
Hopefully just a couple of days.
Hopefully a couple of days. We don't know what the future holds, and
heck, we don't know what tomorrow morning holds.
No. But my big hope and the big piece of optimism that I have through all of this is that I am seeing so many more people care and act and say what they believe and fight for others. And it is out there. These stories of hope and it's out there. I see it all the time on social media. I see it in groups I belong to. I see people caring about others and wanting to fight for the rights of others, and not being driven by fear, but instead being driven of this hope for a better world. And that is the main piece of hope that I am holding on to through all of this.
It's going to get better. It has to. People are we are being affected in a way that we never imagined we would.
Mm-hmm.
And 2020, like it or not, has been a pivotal year.
Yes. So don't get too down. If you feel hopeless right now, know that a lot of other people are in your shoes, but shift it a little bit. Concentrate on some action that you can take. It's not going to make it completely better, but if we all take a little bit of action, we will see huge change happening. We're already seeing huge change happening. And that is all we can focus on right now. And by actually putting things into action and volunteering and signing petitions, we are showing our kids that they can have an impact on their world as well. So you can be that positive force of change. I encourage you to be that positive force of change. Please go get involved in some way and start using that I statement in your house and see how it changes your personal communication without blaming or shaming. And until next time, remember, the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for stopping by, guys.
Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday, who is pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.